Hello friends and welcome back. This is Jenny from Polly's Paper Studio. Thanks for joining me today. So for today's project, I have a bit of a follow-up on my previous tutorial. I shared with you how I created some ephemera style flowers using my flower dies, and I had a lot of fun making that, and y'all seem to really enjoy it. So I dug back into my die bin and found some additional dies that I really haven't been using to their fullest potential, because I do get a little bit hung up on wanting the biggest, bulkiest, largest flower arrangements for my projects. But for today, I'm showing you that maybe simpler can be just as beautiful. So I created these with basically scraps from my stash and created a lovely arrangement for this sweet greeting card. So stick with me and we will make this together. Here's the flowers we're going to be working with today for our card. They're both from Cherry Designs, but it does not need to be these specific flowers. You can use any that you have on hand. I picked a couple that are slightly different. One is a little bit larger, and then one is meant for layering. So this one is the Sweet Christine. It is very petite. It is great for making filler flowers, and because it cuts them in a strip, you can run them through and cut many at a time. I chose to cut these in a lighter blue and a darker blue so that I could get a little bit of added detail. I didn't use this piece on the side. I just went ahead and used the petal flowers. I'm also going to use the rose and leaves, and this one cuts a portion of the center out, so I'm going to get detail from this by adhering it to a darker colored cardstock so that the indentations and the cutout will show through with the other color. I'm also using the leaves that come with this set, so it has a beautiful tattered edge, and then it also embosses the leaf pattern into it. So that is a great way to get extra detail. I'll start with those Sweet Christines. Here I've got two different colors of blue, and for this project I chose to put the lighter color on top. I've also punched with my 1/2-inch hole punch. This is normally what I would make eyelets with. I just cut a piece of scrap cardstock because I want to adhere my pieces onto it. I'm gonna use this Tombow adhesive very sparingly. It does not take a lot, and just get a little bit on the center and push it down onto that dot. Then follow it with your second flower. Now you don't have to alternate the colors, you can make them all the same. I just thought this would add a little bit of extra detail. That will set up very quickly, and you can move on to adding a finishing layer. And I just picked this very sweet little pearl. Now these come on adhesive, but I don't trust that, and I'm just going to add a tiny little bit more of that Tombow and then set this in place and let it set up. So those are pearls in a pack I picked up from Walmart, the Studio G brand, and I think they work really well for card projects because they have a flat back and they're easy to adhere them. So here is my smaller flower, and I'll just set that aside. You can make as many of them as you like. So I picked a lighter and a darker color of the pink as well. So I'm moving on to that rose and leaves die, and I'm going to adhere it to this darker pink color with my Zig two-way glue pen. Basically what you want to do is get that glue running into the tip, then use this all over the back of the solid pieces, really get it filled in nicely. Make sure you go to the edge because there's a little bit of extra on the outside that won't adhere. Make sure you cover that fully. I'm just showing you for the purpose of demonstration. Then just add that to your darker color cardstock and put a block on it, and then walk away and let it set up so that when you come back to it, you can clip it out and have this beautiful two-tone, one-dimension flower. So what I've done is glued it down, clipped it out, and then I put it on some foam spacer. So that will build just a little bit of dimension and help me to layer it over top of the other flower. So for my arrangement today, I have one of the larger flowers and then 4 of the smaller Sweet Christines, and I'm going to create a nice balanced arrangement with that. I'm also going to be using the Flourish 14. This is from a Cherry Lynn Designs as well. Then I have an additional piece from the Floral Bouquet. So this is just going to be a little bit of extra foliage layer for my arrangement. My card base is going to be 5 by 6.5 side fold, and I finished the inside with coordinating paper. I can come back in later and add a portion for a sentiment to be added, and then I'm just gonna start on layering this front cover. So I'm picking that plaid again, and this is a collection from Authentique Paper. It isn't a current collection, but I never get rid of plaid, so I always have that on hand. And I'm using a beautiful gray cardstock as my matting all throughout, so it gives it a nice consistent look. My next layer is going to be a raised portion, so I've got that cardstock added with some foam spacer. Now I put on my double-sided adhesive tape, and then also I'm going to add a little bit of wet adhesive just for extra security, and that is going right in the middle. I can see now in the camera that I've got a little bit of extra sunlight on my project area, but I don't think it will be hard to see around that, so please forgive me for that. Okay, here's my pattern paper. So this is a beautiful lace look, and it has that pink tone that is going to coordinate so perfectly with the handcrafted flowers we are making. So this will be our first raised section, and then I'm topping it off with that dovetail banner. So I cut this from wood grain, and this is actually an older Prima pattern, but I liked the vintagey kind of palette wood effect, and then this particular one has some stitching detail as well, so that's just an extra way to get more detail from your card. And I'm putting it fairly close to the right hand side because I do want to make sure to leave room for those beautiful florals. So instead of my regular doily, I am going to bring in this die from Gina Marie Designs, and I've just cut out the largest of these circles. This is a good nesting die, and then I took my circle die that fit inside and just clipped out the inside. So rather than it being a doily, it's more of a frame, and it has that beautiful eyelet edge, so that will look really beautiful, I think, on that wood grain. Now I didn't leave a whole lot of room for adhesives there, so I'll have to go in very carefully with my Tombow and just add a little bead of glue around the inside so that it doesn't squish out. This is going to be a little more fragile than a regular doily, so I don't want any of it hanging off this portion on the side that won't be covered with flowers. So just go ahead and press that into place while that glue sets up. I've clipped a sentiment now from one of my collections in my stash, and I popped that up on some foam spacers, so I'm building lots of dimension here again, and I just want it to be not quite centered because I want a little bit extra of that frame showing, and I want to put this in first before the flowers because I want to be aware of where all those leaves are going to be so that I don't cover up the words. So I've taken my one side and adhered it so that you can see what I want to do is add the darker leaves and then the flourish leaf and that extra bit of foliage. I cut that from white cardstock, and then I put in just a tiny loopy twine bow and those 2 Sweet Christine flowers topped with pearls. So I'll just rest this here so that I can work on the rest of my arrangement. Now you see how this is going to just top this and be just enough room around those words. So for the other side, we'll just make this arrangement. Now I took off one of the leaves because it was going to interfere with those words, and that's okay. You just have to be aware of where all of the arrangement is going to fall before you stick it down, because you don't want to have to pull up the whole thing to alter it enough so that your sentiment will show. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of decide where I want these back leaves, and I'm going to build it from the back forward. I'm using my trusty glue gun for this because I want it to go quickly, but you could use Tombow if you preferred that. Now I'm going to have my white foliage. You see how this one curves around this way, so I want this one to curve around this way so that I get a nice curved arrangement. And I'm going to add it here, and I'll just tack that on again. Then I'll put my loopy twine bow. I'm folding it into itself so that I can get the loops going in the direction that I want them to be. Clip the excess twine now. See where this falls. To have enough room for all of these layers. I'm going to stack these smaller flowers and attach them as one single piece. I've made these with white before and also shaped them. This is a great filler size because you can just tuck them in to fill in your arrangement, contain those loops even more. Now I see how much room I need to leave for my larger flower, so I can probably just attach this top one now. Now come in and add the bottom one. I'm going to angle that nice. Now pull the backs off of the adhesive and add a little bit of extra glue just to be on the safe side. I think that is a beautiful, natural looking arrangement without all the bulk. I'm going to add a couple of buttons here. That's it for our card today, making less bulky flower arrangements with our floral dies. So I've got a few picked out for some future projects, so be on the lookout for those. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment. And if you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe. As always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.